Alright, so on the short little review, that says 1.1 and 1.2, but it's really just 1.1. We're going to go through a couple of those. Make sure you're writing all of this down for your quiz tomorrow. For number 5, how would we start that? Distributing the negative. We have negative 4n minus 5 equals 16 plus 2n. And then what? Your like terms on the same side, so your negative 4n and your negative n. You get negative 5n minus 5 equals 16 plus 2n. Then you have a choice. Where do you want to move first?
Subtract 2n.
Okay. So if we are subtracting 2n from the right, we then have to move our constant to the other side. So subtract 5. Our 2n's would cancel, our 5's would cancel. This would leave us with negative 7n. And 16 minus 5 is 11. But something here as well. Oh, because this was negative, so I should add. My bad. There we go. Never going to get the full number. And then our last step, divide both sides by negative 7. Negative 3 would be our final answer for that one. Do we have questions on that? Leland?
Oh, how did you get? Oh, no. I see.
Number 6, we're going to do the same process, except this time we have two things we need to distribute. On the left, we have like terms that we can combine. Negative 5 plus 8 would give us a positive 3m. On the right, we have negative m minus 2 plus 2 minus 4m. And then we could combine like terms on the right. So we have m's that we can combine to get negative 5m. And then our 2's, if we combine them, they cancel each other out. You could put plus 0, but you don't need it. What would be our next step? He said, do what? Sorry. Take a guess. What do you think we should do next? Combine them how? So we did what to get that one? Okay. And you can do either one. Either add 5m to the other side or subtract 3m to both sides. But we end up with 8m, and this side would just cancel. What we could not do is divide, because that wouldn't get m by itself. Then if we divide both sides, we end up with 0, which can be a solution. Questions on that one? If you see any others on the small review that you want to go over, circle it and we'll come back to it after we go through the rest. On the next one, I'm hoping that these are all the right questions. Fourth period, yeah, did not have the right questions when I did this the first time. gonna start off with one of these, writing the slope-intercept from one of these graphs. Does everyone graph this with us? Good. Okay, so. Alright, so for this, we need to find the slope and y-intercept, so we can write this in slope-intercept form. What is the y-intercept of this? 1. So far we knew this much. I left space for our slope because we don't know what that is yet. And then you have to find another point along this line that crosses the grid lines in the background exactly. So another point may be this one, either or, doesn't matter. Oh. And you would need to count your slope. Up or down first, then left or right. What is our slope for this? 2/5, but it's negative 2/5 because we're going down and to the right. So our equation would be y equals negative 2/5x plus 1. Questions on that one? We're going to do one more of these. For 17. We need to know what type of line is this. Is it a vertical line? Is it a horizontal line? It's a vertical line. So would that be an x equals or a y equals? X equals. And if you don't remember, write in somewhere in your toy box. That way you know that vertical lines should be x equals. And then you're going to find where this crosses your x-axis, which would be where?
3.
Negative 3. So x equals negative 3 would be our equation. Questions on that? That one more time. What does this mean? Horizontal lines have 0 slope and are y equals. Vertical lines have undefined slope and are x equals. On the next page. We're going to do number 20. This one you're given your slope and your y-intercept. We have to put it in slope-intercept form. What would that look like? Y equals 1/5x minus 3. If you're given your slope and your y-intercept, there's nothing for you to do except put those together. For number 22, somewhere on your paper, write this formula. For the test, you will need to know this formula, but for the quiz, remember it's open note. So if you're given a point and a slope, you're going to use your point slope formula and put all of those things in. So we have y minus, our y1 is 2, our m is negative 3/2, times x minus our x1, which is negative 2. What would we do first? Not first. Were you talking about this too?
No.
Make this plus 2, yes. And you could do that from the start. So y minus 2 equals, what would this be?
Negative 3.
Negative 3/2. x and then minus 3. And then what? Say that again. So our final equation would be y equals negative 3 over 2x minus 1. What questions do we have on that one? On the next page, we're going to do a couple of these, and then I'm going to show you one more that I want you to write down. But starting with 26, if we have a slope that is undefined, what type of line is that going to be?
Vertical.
It's going to be vertical, so is that x equals or y equals?
X equals.
X equals. So we're going to look at our point. What does x equal? 3. So there's no real work for this. You have to know that if your slope is undefined, that's an x equals, and look at your number. Same thing for the opposite. If it says slope is 0, that would be a y equals, and you would look at your y value. Questions on this? For number 28, we are now given 2 points. So we need to find our slope first. And then we're going to use our point slope formula. Label them if you need to. And to find our slope, we would have negative 5 minus a negative 4 over 2 minus 4. What would our slope be?
I'm not negative 1 and negative 2.
So this would be negative 1 over negative 2, but the negatives would cancel, just leaving 1/2. And then you could choose either of these points to put in point slope, but don't do both. And don't mix them. Whichever x you start with, use that same y value, and vice versa. So I'm going to start with the first one. So this would be y minus negative 4 equals 1/2 times x minus 4. In this case, you can distribute and change the negative to a plus at the same time. So y plus 4 equals 1/2 x minus 2. And then subtract 4 on both sides. So y equals 1/2 x minus 6 would be our answer. Questions on that one? Either on the same page or on the back. Some of you have a blank page, some of you have something else. Either way, that doesn't matter. Write this down. You don't have to do the graph, but the equation 1 has an x-intercept of 3, 0 and a y-intercept of 0, 2. So somewhere where you have space, write that down. Right, x-intercept of 3, 0, y-intercept of 0, 2. And there are a couple different ways to do this problem, so we'll do it both ways. One, if you're given a graph, so you guys don't have this graph, but you could graph it if you want to. If you're given a graph, you could graph both points, so 3, 0 would be here, 0, 2 would be here. I could count my slope, and that would be negative 2/3. And because I have my slope and I'm given my y-intercept, I could write my equation. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. If you didn't have a graph or didn't graph it, you would need to find the slope of these algebraically. So we would need to do 2 minus 0 over 0 minus 3. To get negative 2/3. At that point, you were given your y-intercept, so you could put them together in slope-intercept form. If you forgot that you were given your y-intercept, you could take either of these points and use point-slope formula. Questions on that one? Again, if there were any that you saw that we did not go over that you wanted to go over or had a question on, circle that, star that, we'll come back to it. And then on to the last part of the review. Starting with number 1. If we have to write an equation of a line that is parallel to the one that's given, what would the slope be? Negative 1/2. So you would start off your equation y equals negative 1/2 and then add x. For this, it can be whatever y-intercept you want, it just can't be the same. So, not negative 4.
Where's your cell?
It's a separate paper. It should be the last.
It's not the same.
What is this?
That's it. We have 1.
2x minus 3.
I think I gave you this one as well. Who all had that different one? Anyone else have the wrong one? We're going to switch to the other one. Okay. Sorry about that. So now that we know this, the slope would have to be the same.
You want this back later tomorrow?
Later. The y-intercept would just have to be different. It just can't be negative 4. So whatever number you want, or you can leave it as 0. You can put plus 4, plus 100. It doesn't matter. It just can't be negative 4. Questions on that?
For number 3, if we were to write a line that's perpendicular, what would that slope be?
The opposite.
Which would be what?
-5. -5. Or +5.
Positive 5.
Who's in
5.
Like,
So y equals positive 5, and then x, and then whatever y-intercept you want, could be the same, could be different, doesn't matter. Questions on that? For perpendicular, the y-intercept does not matter at all. Nope. For parallel, it just can't be the same. For number 6, we are now given a point and given an equation. We have to write a new equation that is parallel to the one that they gave us. If it's parallel, what is our slope going to be?
Same slope.
The same, -7/3. So we're going to use that slope and that point and put it into the point slope formula. So y minus our y1 is 5, our slope is -7/3, x minus -3. And then we could change the negative to a plus. And then distribute and solve for y. Y minus 5 equals -7/3 x minus 7. And add 5 to both sides. So y equals -7/3x minus 2 is our final answer.
What questions do we have on that? And then we're going to do one more.
For number 7, if this equation has to be perpendicular, what would our new slope be? Positive 9/2. And then we're going to do the same thing we did before. So y minus 5/1 is 4. Our slope is 9/2. X minus x1 is 2. And then we could distribute. So 9/2 times -2 would just be -9. And then we could add 4 to both sides. Y equals 9/2x minus 5 is our final answer. Questions on that one? And then 9 is going to be the last one we do. So for this, you should have 2 equations, one that is parallel to the one that's given, and one that is perpendicular. Before you do anything, find the line, or the equation of this line. So we know it's going to have a y-intercept at 6. And we have to find the slope. Find another point that crosses grid lines. Make sure that slope kind of matches as you go along. The slope of this line would be what? -2. So then you need a line that is parallel to that line and a line that is perpendicular. So if it is parallel, what would the slope be? -2. And then on your x, put whatever minus if you want, it just can't be +6. If it is perpendicular, what would our slope be?
1/2.
Y equals 1/2 x, put whatever minus if you want. What questions do you have on that problem? Do we have any others in any of the reviews that we had a question on, wanted to go over? If not, for the rest of class, go through these review pages and practice what you feel like you need to practice. Remember that your quiz is tomorrow, and then we'll go over that on Wednesday, and your test is on Thursday. So if any of this you are struggling with, or maybe not understanding, come see me after school today, tomorrow, or Wednesday to get help on any of those.